Welcome to the Vocal Lab Podcast with your hosts, Shelby Rollins and Jason Catrone, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note.
Studio. Which is not studio. It's a word that, who knows what that is? Studio? Was that Phil Collins?
Studio. Yeah, that was Phil Collins, right? Mm-hmm. He's really bad health. He went and I saw last week he went and toured. I can't think of any other way to say it, but like he went and toured the studio and sat at his old drum. I guess he hadn't done it in a while. Mm-hmm. I don't forget what's wrong with him, but he's really ill. Speaking of, Val Kilmer died. Did you see that?
No. Mm-hmm. He was my favorite Batman.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe an unpopular opinion, but Val Kilmer is totally my favorite Batman.
I love Val Kilmer. What
happened?
And Tombstone, talk about great Doc Holliday. And The Saint. He had throat cancer.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, he had some really bad health issues with the cancers. He was 65, I think.
Is he like a smoker?
Maybe.
I don't know if it just was random, I think.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it was really bad. Well, that's a great way to open our podcast. I don't know if that was the opening or not.
I mean, it's on film.
It's on. We may use it. What's up, Shelbs?
Hey, Jason.
Is it cool if I call you Shelbs? I don't know if I've ever said that.
You can.
Hey, Martha. I have a friend from growing up. Her name's Shelby, and I do call her Shelbs. That's when I text you all the time. And you'll be like, I don't think this is for me. I'll be like, oh yeah, it's my other friend Shelby. I haven't done that in a minute.
There's a couple of us out there.
Yeah.
I do have friends who call me Shelbs.
Shelbs. What about Selby? Do you know any Selbys?
But my fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Selby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My friend Kyla has a sister named Selby. Speaking of the name game, last night at dinner, my friend Kayla was going to go with me and my friend Kyla. So it would have been Kyla and Kayla, and our waiter was Kyle. And I'm like, why did Kayla not come? That would have been crazy.
I've always had so many nicknames, to be honest, over the years, especially in childhood, that I guess I answer to whatever at this point.
Yeah, so. Same. I don't know if your grandmother was this way, but my grandmother was, my great aunt Audrey was. My grandmother had 11 kids, to be fair. And
wow.
Lots and lots of grandkids and great grandkids. So there's a slew of names to remember. Mm-hmm. So, makes sense she would throw out the wrong name on occasion.
I mean, I do that with my kids.
I think everyone kind of does at some level, right?
I really do it with my boys.
Well, you have two.
Two boys. And it's like a gender thing, I think, because I never do this with my daughter.
Well, you only have one daughter.
Yes. I will always be like, Brooks.
You might do it to your daughter if you had another daughter.
I think so. I think I would.
Yeah. Or if you're,
my nieces, it's like this because it's three girls in this one clump of my nieces anyway, and they all have names that start with E. And then my nephews, my brother's kids, all boys, and I do it with both of them. They don't have the same. The boys don't have like the same letter thing, but
a lot of people like those.
The girls do
all the names,
Yeah.
It's like I have my friend. I don't know why we're on this topic, but
it's our banter.
I always I have two. My friend, maybe this is a Middle Eastern thing. I don't know, but my friend Tarek, up in New York, his mom is Lisa. His dad is what's his dad's name? I just forgot it. It's like Sam and Lisa. It's not Sam. It's close. And then his brother's Jonathan, and the other brother is Christopher or something. I'm getting the brothers' names wrong. Point is, he's Tarek, and they all have like these very American names. And I had a friend in college. Her name was Ipti Sam, but her parents were from the Middle East. Her dad was Alan, her mom was Mary, and her sister was Jennifer, but she got Ipti Sam. She would always bring it up too. She would always bring it up. She'd be like, "Why you on that name?"
I'm adopted.
Yeah, totally.
That is so funny. I just saw some headline, and it was yesterday, so I have no idea if this is an April Fool's thing, because yesterday, when this airs, it's not going to be April 2nd, but today is. And I saw this post yesterday that it was saying that Sia had her third child with the same name as the other two children that she has birthed. And it was a weird name.
That would be funny.
And I was like, is this for real? And I had not looked this up. Maybe, Carlos, can you look up if Sia has 3 children named something like Stagecoach?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Real.
It was a
That'd
weird
be cool.
name. And I'm like, please let this be an April Fool's, because that's mean, Sia.
My elementary art instructor, she and her husband, they were very cool people, but they were very artsy. And she gave birth to both her kids at home, home birth. And the story always was that the first thing she saw when she looked out the window is what she was going to name the kids. So her daughter's name was Maple because she saw a maple tree, and the son is named Wood Thrush because she saw a wood thrush bird. I'm like, I wouldn't even know what a wood thrush looks like. But how much wood could a wood thrush shut? Crack myself up.
Have you seen that Key and Peele sketch with
I
when
don't
they're
even know
doing
what
the names?
that is.
Key and Peele?
What is that?
You know Key and Peele, right?
Of course.
The comedians. I'm trying to think of their individual first names.
Key and Peele. I don't think I know them. I might know them by face.
That's their last names.
I don't know a lot of comedians by name. I know a face.
They're
Same with actors.
It's Michael Keegan and Jordan Peele.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
They're
I know
hilarious, and when they kind of started out, they were like, internet show. I don't even know what they were on, but they had their own
Isn't that
little
what
show.
this is?
Central.
Isn't this an internet show?
There's Comedy
Like
Central,
iCarly.
the Chappelle Show.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, cool.
And they did a sketch. Yeah, it was kind of like Chappelle. They did a sketch of they were these teachers in a high school classroom, and they're doing roll call, and how they're substitute teachers. Yes, and I think the thought was that they were in some sort of like inner city school. And so they're these 2 black guys, for context, if nobody knows. And so they can kind of get away with this. But they were doing roll call, and they'd be like looking at the list, and they'd be like, Ron.
Yeah. So
Ron.
The substitute teacher taught at inner city school, but now he was substituting at a non-inner city.
I see.
I couldn't remember it.
So every time
and the
he
kids
read
got,
the roll
he goes,
call, it was like,
here's Aaron.
Yeah.
And they do this to
Sounds
all
like
the
a
names.
Saturday Night
It
Live
is
skit.
hysterical.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Balake. We should, yeah.
What is
Missed
it?
that moment. Balake. Blake.
Oh, Blake. Balake.
My brother loved this sketch. So when my daughter was born, I said this to Blake in our interview with Blake on the podcast. I was like, my daughter's middle name is Blake, and she's named after my grandmother, whose maiden name was Blaylock, and it was sort of an homage to my grandmother. Anyway, my brother calls my daughter, whose first name is Isla, he calls her Isla Balake sometimes.
What's the most interesting or unique family name that you have in your tree that you know
Oh
of?
dear God, there's so many. There's some rough ones. Permelia is a good
Permelia?
solid one. Yep.
Wow.
Permelia.
Mine would be, I always come to, my dad had an aunt. Her name was Reener. Aunt Reener.
Sounds like a body part.
She liked to do the Charleston square. She would dance at family reunions.
Oh man,
Yeah, Aunt Reener.
how rough.
It does sound weird.
Yeah.
Like, what's a Reener?
Yeah, there's some bad ones, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Lots of talks and names.
So what are we talking about today, Jason?
We are talking about we're talking about the studio.
The studio.
Yes.
And that's
which is a broad term to say
term.
the studio.
The recording studio, the singers, the artists, the bands, when they go in and they record, when we have gone into the recording studio.
Yeah.
Recording is totally an art form and a very, very different animal than live
Absolutely.
performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I found that people either love it or hate it, and they often prefer one over the other, the live over the studio
Guilty.
or the studio over the live.
Guilty.
Yeah. So what do you like better?
Well,
I know
you
like
know,
live.
live for sure.
like
I
live.
do not like the studio at all.
I love recording. I love the studio.
See, that's so interesting
Yeah.
to me because you know why I don't like it is because it, growing up as a kid thinking you're the perfect singer because people tell you this. No, it shows those imperfections. You hear them.
Right.
It's so
Yeah.
raw and authentic and honest and just there that I don't like it. Also, couple that with my ADD, and it's like I'm in there for 2-3 hours, and I'm like, I got to go do something else. So
I'm impressed that we've been recording here all day.
I know
and you're
these
still hanging.
these moments do impress myself. But you did see before we started this when I was kind of doubled over like this on
You
the
were.
chair, and I was like, I need to do something.
step
So
out.
yeah, it's partly that, and it's also like I don't like comping vocals. I don't like. I've never
that.
liked
I let
doing
the
anything
producer do
technical.
that,
I don't like to
mixer.
build things with my hands. I just didn't grow up doing any of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't exposed to it. I didn't watch my dad do it. I didn't watch anyone do it. And so I think, all things considered, the studio just makes me very antsy. I'm not uncomfortable in there. Like, I'm not afraid of it. I just don't enjoy it. But the live, it pulled me off the stage.
I like live. I think I like recording more. I love the challenge, to your point of like, you hear every mistake. And actually, I'll save this story for later of kind of how I've evolved I'm not going to call myself a recording artist, but as an artist who has recorded a lot over the years.
That makes you a recording artist.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to say I have a record deal. But I've recorded a lot since I was young. And so I've logged some experience in the studio, and I do it way different now than I did it then, because as an artist I've grown a lot, and my mindset around that is so different. It's not about trying to craft a perfect performance and I'm above auto-tune. It's now, which it used to be, and now it's I think what I love about recording and being in the booth, laying down a vocal of a song that I might really love, is the intimacy. And I'm able to be really, really connected and solo in my own little universe of the vocal booth. And I'm not feeling any kind of, when you're on stage, there's a lot of different dynamics at work in a live performance. That's great. So none of this is bad. It just is. And one of those is like, you're looking at the audience. And what if your audience sucks that night? Like, what if they're giving
And
you
they do.
nothing?
That happens.
They're not engaged, and you've got to work. Those are hard live performances.
They are.
But in the studio, ain't nobody doing that. Nobody is in there judging you. Nobody is in there. I mean, maybe your producer, but like, no one is there to like influence the choices that you make for better or worse. So you have to live with it, and you have to be so deeply connected to your own emotional state that's the kind of performance you deliver. And I find that the people who do not like that very specific thing love playing off the energy of the crowd and how much that informs an authentic performance. And I love that. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but that's, I think, what I love about the studio is I can take my time. I can really sit with something. There's no rush to kind of, you only get one shot when it's live, but I can really like work with something and feel the intimacy energy of a vocal and not feel like I've got to be loud because it's a big room or fill up the space. It's like, no, it can be whisper quiet, and it's so compelling. And that's something that I love.
Valid. I've grown to like the studio. I used to really not, but I have grown to like it. It's also interesting to this whole point. I think, we, in today's world, I tend to say often that the art of performing appears to be somewhat of a dying art form.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much opportunity to do it, I don't think. Now, you can go on, again, you can do your TikTok dance or whatever. That's not the same thing. But I'm saying, like, getting...
Can you do a TikTok dance right now?
No. I
don't know any TikTok dances.
I don't know any TikTok dances either. Getting your live performance honed in, locked in, getting your comfort and your groove and your finding your own little unique things that are yours. It takes time and it takes intention, obviously, but so many artists today don't have the opportunity to do that. And what we see is now, oftentimes we have, artists kind of takes off, and then through social media or whatever, or they get a deal, and next thing you know, they may do one or two tours where it's pretty scaled down, but they're quickly trying to get to where they have the video and the lights and the dancers, the spectacle, right? And it's evolved to that, but my whole point is there is a special art form in knowing how to perform and entertain.
Absolutely.
Just with your person.
Yeah.
And the music itself.
And nothing else on stage and just commanding the audience.
Yeah.
This is a theater performance experience, but I was in, when I was in high school, I was in a production of White Christmas, and I was Betty Haynes, so I was the Rosemary Clooney character. And there's that beautiful scene in
She's
White
from
Christmas.
Kentucky.
Is she? There's that beautiful scene where she is kind of left the Vermont, farm thing, and she is gone back to New York City to take a job at this club performing, and she sings, and then Bing Crosby comes to see her to like try to get her to come back, and she sings "Love You Didn't Do Right by Me," and it's very kind of modern art vibes in that performance. She's wearing this gorgeous black formal dress and these gloves all the way up her arms. And I had to sing that in the musical. Well, we didn't have the dancers around me for that. We just put me in a microphone in the black dress, center stage, spotlight, everything's like blacked out. And I got to sing that song. And it was one of my favorite musical theater performances I've ever done because I actually sang in like a big band jazz orchestra in high school. And I loved indulging that kind of like jazzy vibe for a song. And I used to sing that song for years after that for theater auditions. And I got callbacks off that song, but it was, it's a gorgeous song, but it's a simple ballad, and it's all about the moment and the direct compare, like just one person on the stage. And I don't think I really knew when I was, like 17 years old, like, what that really meant, but I did know that, wow, there's no dancers, there's no set, it's just me right here. And it was like my favorite part of the show was getting to do that. And arguably because I was more of a singer than an actor. So that I got to kind of be that for the moment. But yeah,
one of the
being
coolest,
able to do that is huge.
Totally.
There's nothing else going on.
One of the coolest things I've seen in the past, let's just say 10 years, live, that I was connected to is going to combine both these things. You'll find it cool. It was one of my friends who is a producer, Nathan Walters, who was in a Christian band called Plus One.
I remember that band.
Yeah.
Yay.
They were a Christian boy band. They did really well. So he was living in LA the same time I was there. He's back here now. Still producing, really talented guy. It was his birthday. It was his 30th birthday. And he was at the time renting there were these smaller studio spaces in the bottom of Capitol Records. They're still there. So he rented one of those that he was working in and out of all throughout the week. And he got to know the studio managers and everything of Capitol. So he was able to have access to Studio A, where everyone recorded everything, right? But Sinatra did everything. And have his birthday party in there, which is really cool, right? Cool. So his 30th birthday, Studio A, they brought out the Sinatra mic in the box. So it was there. We all got to get our picture around. It was really cool. And as the night went on, there was a point where there was like a little open mic kind of thing. So if anyone wanted to get up and sing, they could. A little 3-piece plan. And Crystal Lewis, an amazing
fabulous
artist,
singer.
Got her name in Christian spaces now as a really great jazz artist and just an amazing human. She's like just amazing and super funny. But she got up and she sang a song a cappella in a studio around a bunch of studio heads, like musicians, right? And I was floored.
Yeah.
Her ability to hold my entire attention, like I didn't want it to stop. One song.
Yeah.
It was just the coolest thing ever. And it's not something that I already knew that, that's kind of one of the pinnacles to be able to do that. But I think that influenced my coaching around that time too, because, I hadn't been coaching long at that point. And it just helped me really see like, anyone I work with, I want to get them there.
Right.
Whether they're in the studio or on a stage. You just need your voice and a song.
Yeah. It's like
if you can add to it, sure. Add a guitar, add a piano.
A litmus test to like a really great song is, can you completely strip it down to like this pure acoustic thing and it still is a great song.
Yeah.
When it's not fully produced. And I think that about a vocal too. Like, can you just sing and just the vocal and the piano or something like that, and it still really grab me. And I think that's something I love about the studio though, is that it does kind of capture that moment a little bit, because especially if you're going down and laying down vocals, you may or may not have the full track built out. You've got to be able to deliver a vocal that is exactly what that song needs in a very pure form without the decoration of the full show energy, right? And that's the thing that sells. Like when you're telling people when they're preparing, like we've done vocal production, the artists that we've worked with, gone into the studio and helped them out with that. And I think super fun.
That is fun. I do find that really fun.
Yeah. Part of the preparation I'm trying to get people to is, I started that. Hold on, I lost my train of thought.
That's why you forget your kids' names too. I think there's more to this story, Shelby, than
I also,
than
before we started filming, freaked out and was like, oh my gosh, is somebody picking up my child from school? Oh, Lord. No, what were we talking about a second ago?
don't know.
This is so real. My brain.
We were talking about
Being able to like capture, isolate the purity of the vocal and
we were talking about being in the studio versus
getting them
being
ready
live
to go in
performance.
there.
Vocal production.
Oh, I know what it was.
There we go. Now she's back, people.
Shh, I'm gonna forget again. No, it's like shoot. It's like I have dementia. It's like fleeting from my mind. I'm so tired.
This is when she doesn't realize we're dropping things in her coffee.
Is that why it tasted
Memory
different
loss.
when I warmed it back up? Hold on. It was good, okay?
I'm sure it was fantastic.
You don't have the full
Words.
band, the live stage thing when you're in the studio.
Right.
And so the objective, the biggest challenge is to get a singer to connect deeply enough with the song that they can deliver that compelling performance without the fact that the audience is there.
Because the audience brings a lot of energy in most cases, right? The
And that's
band will
actually
bring
why
the band will bring energy.
Yeah, and that's why bands release a lot of live records, right? Live
Well,
recordings.
totally.
It's a very different thing, and it's really cool to hear that same song but live.
Right.
And that's why we go to concerts.
That's why it's different.
Yeah, and so to get an artist who can really deliver that and help them get that deeply connected to their music, that they don't need that energy to feed off of because they can just connect and deliver is hard, but also a really, really important and beautiful thing for any artist to be able to master, you know?
Well, and it's a learning curve that needs to be expressed, I think.
Yeah.
You need to exercise that, both sides of that. You know, I think even from like my background, Carlos's background, I don't know if you all did this on the last, probably didn't, because David was heavily involved, but there were a few tracks that we did with the Tenori records that were not full orchestra. So you go in to the studio and try to record your truest vocal that you're used to hearing, like full, lush, everything.
Piano mock-ups.
Yeah.
You did half the record to piano mock-ups.
And it's tricky.
That's a very different vibe.
It's so hard. It's not a vibe. That's the problem.
Right.
You get
Yeah.
80 piece, 50, 60, 80 people behind you. That's a freaking vibe.
Totally.
And then you strip that down to just, I mean, it's really hard.
It makes you gotta work harder, not to strive vocally, but to like really do the inner work to get really real with the song. And you know, your energy, it's very self-discovery oriented, because then you'll find that your energy sort of wanes when there's not that thing there to support you, and you have to kind of cultivate it yourself and bring that same kind of energy, whether it's to imagine the crowd is there or whatever it is.
I wonder if people think that
can't
about
play
this
off of that.
podcast. They're out there like, I wish they had a live audience, because it would really up that energy level.
Carlos, can you get on Amazon and record and like order us
Get
a
us-
laugh track
you know,
and like the applause thing, like in
little applause
sitcoms from the
thing, yeah.
90s? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. That'll really help my energy and my vibe.
Yes.
But it makes you have to be slay.
Totally.
It makes you have to be more vulnerable.
It does.
You know, because anybody I think can kind of get up there and feel like feed off the energy of a.
There we go. Look at that. Look at that. We both just came alive.
Thank you for being
Gosh, I need
Thank
that.
you.
I need that just in my house throughout the day. I walk into a room. That's a
here.
great
I know.
idea.
It's probably a good like ringtone.
You should get. We should make. Carlos, we should figure out how to make like a little sensor that would play that when you walk into the room.
Make that on your ring cam downstairs or whatever when you open the door, and your guest just gets a round of applause.
That would be
Or
amazing.
you flush.
Anyway,
so good.
So if you're feeding off the audience, there's nothing I don't think inherently wrong with that, but at the same time, it's borrowed energy, and you're not having necessarily to be as vulnerable because you're using their vulnerability of their connection sometimes,
that's
arguably. But if you don't have that, then it's all you. It's your deep vulnerability on display. You know?
Which is why it's important for an artist, and it depends on the artist. I get it. Some artists don't necessarily have to practice or like their show like full capacity, full energy to lock it in. I get that, but I think the point always does still stand. If you can go rehearse your show in a proper setting, I'm not saying in front of a crowd, but like in a proper rehearsal space, and run your show and pretend that there's 1,000 people out there and bring your energy with it, it's going to elevate everything you're doing.
Oh, for sure. I haven't.
As opposed to just
starting
like
to do that right now. She's just scheduling regular band rehearsals in a rehearsal space.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great, you know. And,
Yeah.
but then at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of time, and I've been guilty of this too. I'll just go in and kind of like halfway do it because it's like it's not a real show.
Yeah.
But you know who didn't do that? Michael frickin' Jackson. That dude, notorious, story after story out there about how he was just so on top of every note, every moment, every move, every word, all of it.
In the studio too, probably.
Both.
There's a documentary I want to watch, and somebody just brought this up to me the other day. I don't remember who. Though I think it's the We Are the World documentary.
Yeah, I never saw that one
He's
either.
in it. He's not the only artist, but it's basically about how they recorded that song with all of those.
The greatest night in pop music.
yeah.
That's it.
I really want to watch that
Yeah,
because it's all
I
about
forgot about
recording that song, right?
Yes, it is
Yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you feel like so in vocal production? Oh, I'll tell this story. So this was kind of illustrating this concept of how does the live translate into the studio. I was recording a worship project with a friend of mine, and we did a live recording with a bunch of people in the audience of all these songs, and then we stayed and did a bunch of vocal overdubs for the next few days in the studio. And there were some things we had to kind of totally re-record vocals for, and other things we just had to kind of do a few things. There's some backgrounds and stuff like that. Well, there's this one song that I had to sing. I was on the high harmony, and it was this big, huge moment, and everybody came in like, bah! And it required, because it was high and loud, for me to be in a hard mix on like an F or something. It was high. And in the stage version, when we performed it, when we were in the worship leading moment, right, that was easy for me to just sort of launch into in context. But in the studio, we had to punch it in. And so it was like not in context, right? I'm not leading into it. I'm just having to start from 0 and go to 100 on this.
Sure.
And it was challenging. And so I'm kind of like messing with it and trying to figure out what to do. And finally, the booth that I was recording in was narrow, but kind of long, strangely. It was this long, narrow, kind of closet-ish looking thing.
No, that's straight and narrow.
There you go. And it kind of was. It was a straight and narrow room. It was like a little rectangle. Yeah. And I finally was like, I can't just sort of all of a sudden be, at least for me in that moment, I was struggling.
But you know people who could. They just come in there, bah!
Yes.
Like right out of the gate.
So what I needed to do, and I was like, I have this idea. Can you give me a little bit more of a ramp in my ears? And so I backed all the way up to the back of the room, and I ran up to the microphone just in time to go, bah! In that, whatever the lyric was, I don't remember what it was. And it was the one we kept, because it gave me, I had that momentum and that physical energy in my body that helped me to sort of deliver it. So there's all sorts of little, things that you can do to work around that. And everybody, it's interesting, have very different preferences for how to record a vocal. And, whether it's, I like to go in and just hammer out the same 2 lines 14 times and then move on. Or other people are like, I just like to sing it all the way through a couple times and then punch.
Yeah, that's what I like to do.
Producers have their own very specific preferences on this. And I think that they probably adapt that to the artist of what they know that artist is good or not good at in the studio. But it is really interesting. I'm more of a sing it all the way through.
Me too.
And then go back and do verses, choruses and things like that, little moments, punch. So I go more from macro to micro.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that more.
Yeah. I think it's more, I feel like I can stay more in the story that way of the song.
Yeah, me too.
Have you experienced someone's here at your
We have
house?
an angel at our door.
Have you ever experienced working with producers that had, I don't know, where you had to fight for not your place in the studio, but like work for the relationship to work? Do you know what I'm saying? Like some producers that I've worked with were like, I'm sorry, you're bringing in a vocal producer. You know, when the artist brings me in, and they're like, they don't want that.
No, I've had that happen where it was like, you know, maybe once where we had to kind of get warm with each other, with me in that vocal producer seat. And I've not, I'm trying to think, I don't think I ever had it happen where I'm behind the mic and had to like, I kind of know the producers before I go into work with them. So it's
I've had more the opposite, where I knew the artist, I didn't know the producer.
Yeah.
And so I had to really go in and a couple times where I've told the artist, like, you're going to need to tell the producer that I'm coming. Don't spring that on them the day of.
Sure.
And also just to communicate, if I can get to communicate with them ahead of time, to be like, I am not here to do your job. Like, I'm not trying to take your job.
Right.
I can't do what you do. I'm just here to really help partly communicate the things that I know that you want out of them. I can kind of translate that for them in a really applicable way, because that happens a lot where producers are like, can you make it more like like big and high, or they just use certain types of language that the singer's like, what, you know, and they can't have no idea what they're talking about. So sometimes you need a bit of a translator or somebody who can speak to, I'm always there, like, I'm here to help you do what you do even better, you know, like to serve and support, not to be another cook in the kitchen barking orders and stuff like that. And I think I've done that successfully with people where I've kind of been able to win them over and then show myself to a producer as an asset to them. Like, you're going to want my number so that you can call me for another artist that you've worked with. Like, that's my goal when I'm there.
And
it's one of my goals.
I think, you know, unfortunately, that is a kind of a normal scenario because we don't have, by and large, most recording sessions don't include someone like us in them.
Yeah, for sure. So it's an easy thing to cut expense-wise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, this has been
well, maybe we might have to like land the plane. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we probably do.
Probably. I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk more about the studio over and over.
Yeah, for sure.
It's part of it. But once again, we are yin and yang. You like the studio. I like the live.
That's why the podcast works, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone. We'll circle back next week, same time.
I would like to know from our audience what questions this stirs up.
Okay, yeah. Let us know.
Let us know.
Hit us on the socials.
Yeah. Talk about another angle.
Hit us on YouTube where we post these videos.
Yeah.
And we'll take them to heart and let you know our thoughts. How's that?
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.